All right. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for our last town hall of 2020. With your kind permission, I'll say that again. Our last town hall of 2020. Love the town hall. Not so sure about 2020. Again, for those of you who weren't able to join us for the coffee break, we had some great participation from our Algonquin community, and we had some music from Jason, some music from Matthew Jerabek, and some lively participation from all of you on our chat this morning. So thank you for that. I will now, and for those of you who don't know me, of course, I'm Claude Brûlé, and I'm your president. I will now turn it over to Ron McLester, our Vice President of Truth, Reconciliation, and Indigenization, for an introduction. Ron.
Segu Agwegu, Digana Dasa Ningas. What I said was, greetings, everyone. My traditional name is Digana Dasa, and I'm happy to provide the opening address, which I'll do in my language this morning. Digana hela nungsa de yane tuladu ngwe hogu yonkinu ha ohunja ngwa tugu yonkwa na digalundak oji daha su awela su asena digana nea nil hande so he yonkwa tugu yonkwa na digalundak the disigalian days yonki soto near das kanyadlia singlandiza yongo danito. What I said in a really quick kindergarten or first grade level linguistic ability was what we call the Thanksgiving address. And in the ceremony, we connect all the different levels of creation, and we acknowledge each other, our mother, the earth, the two-leggeds, the many-leggeds, the crawlers, the swimmers, the flyers, the trees, the medicine, the plants, the animals, the winds, the moon, the sun, the stars, and basically everything in creation. And we thank them for living to their sacred instructions and acknowledging our mother who still cares for us. And so with that, I will share with you that good thinking, that good mind, and ask that we all keep those things in our hearts and in our minds as we gather for the last time this year today. So Yongo, Danintil, back to you, Claude.
Miigwech, Yonko. Thank you, Ron, for those good words. And I will now like to introduce our panel members for this morning. First, we'll have, well, not in particular order, we have Mark Savinkov, our Vice President Advancement, Chris Jensen, our Senior Vice President Academic, Dwayne McNair, Vice President of Finance and Administration, Diane McCutcheon, Vice President Human Resources, Krista Pearson, our Registrar, who is acting for Laura Stanborough, our Vice President Student Services, who's away on annual leave today. Tracy McDougall, Director of President's Office in Communication. Ron, of course, Ron McLester, you just heard, our Vice President of Truth, Reconciliation, and Indigenization. And Colin Benang, who's joining us as a subject matter expert for some of the questions we might have. And he's our Director of Risk Management. So I'll just go through a couple of housekeeping items this morning. So as part of our agenda, I'm going to do a brief overview of what took place at the Board of Governors meeting on Monday. And then we're going to go immediately into our question and answer session. And then we'll do a quick wrap up at the end. So if you have any technical issues or technical concerns, you can reach out through the chat box, and our events team will assist you. So whether it's sound or video quality, any of those things, you can ask your question in the chat. We have closed caption for this event, and at the bottom of your Zoom menu bar, you should see a little CC here that says closed caption. You can click on that to have closed caption. So how to ask questions at the town hall here? You will be asked to use the raise hand feature. And if you do that, then you get put into the list, and you'll be selected to ask your question live. You will need to unmute yourself, and then you can chat with the panel members and ask your question. We also have a Q&A chat box, and you see this again in your menu at the bottom. And you can type in your question, and it will be read by me. And I'll probably alternate between a live question and a Q&A question, as I did the last time. And that question I'll throw to whoever our expert is that should be answering the question based on the subject or the topic of your question. And of course, if time is limited, we can't get through all the questions. At the end, I'll just send a reminder to put your question in the Q&A. We'll capture the outstanding questions. We'll endeavor to answer them and post those on my AC after the town hall, probably about a week after the town hall. And if you're watching through our live stream link on YouTube, you can submit your questions on the chat. That's available through YouTube. And Sophia from our events team will make sure they get those questions to me. Okay. Last time, I think we do a survey every time after a town hall just to ask you what went well, what didn't go so well, how can we improve? We're always looking to continuously improve everything we do, including these types of events. And one thing you asked for was, are there some good news out there? Because sometimes the questions or the topics we cover at our town halls are not necessarily great news. So I thought, well, let's start with a couple of good news items. So the first one that we had on Monday the 30th was our SIS, that's Student Information System Vendor Reveal. And this is when we announced that Unit 4 is going to be our solution provider for our new software as a service student information system. So we're really excited with this partnership. And this is a partnership that will really modernize our systems and the support that we provide to our learners and our employees who use this the system of record, which is critical to college operations. And we'll really fulfill our aspirations to personalize, to make the services more flexible for our learners while improving everyone's experience. So we really look forward to that work starting, and we're going to have a kickoff early in, I think in, if I have the date correctly, February 8th, I think is the date that we're going to have a kickoff. There you go, getting a thumbs up from Krista here. The next event that we had that was tremendous was the Alumni of Distinction Awards this year. They were held on Thursday, December the 3rd, and first off, this was an immense amount of work. We had really great collaboration from all areas of the college. And one thing I did not know as well as I probably should have was that the award itself was created and produced by our Applied Research, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship group. And again, Matthew, whom you've heard sing earlier on, was the main point of contact behind this creation. So that was really well done. We sent a little care package to all our recipients as well, which they really appreciated. And the catering and wine was from our Restaurant International and the School of Hospitality and Tourism. And Kathy DeWard was the main contact for that effort. Of course, the show and the support itself was provided by Sophia Boris and the events team. And our IT was absolutely important to make sure this event went very well. And we had Graham Kent and Sophia Bird helping out on in the background with the IT support. And of course, communication from Tracy and her team and our advancement team to create all the narratives and everything that went into the event. So it was a fantastic soiree. Oh, I can't forget our MC, Sam LaPrade, proud alum of the college, did a great job to keep the things rolling. And we were able to recognize some superb talent, world-class talent in our alums that graduated from the college. So a great evening. And it was wonderful that we were able to connect everyone. As far as, California, one of our recipients was in California, Luc Levesque, who's now working for Shopify as one of their VPs. And we're able to bring in their families from around the world. So that was wonderful. The last event I'll mention was we had our Students Association Faculty Recognition Award, something that I always look forward to. The testimonies are absolutely brilliant, and it's so nice because this comes from the students. They're the ones who say, I had the best experience, I had the best prof, And here's who I want to nominate. And so we had, again, a great event. This took place on November 27th. I think you see a bit of a picture here. There we go. No, that's, I'll name them so because you may not recognize everyone. So our faculty award winners were Berem Kila, Jances Pinnock from our Pembroke campus, Jenny Hodgson from our Pembroke campus, Marina Westbrook, Paul Zwicker, and Charmine Charania. In addition, 2 awards are given to non-faculty employees, and one of those is the Chris Warburton Award of Excellence. And this year, that award went to our very own Brian Eburn, managers of fees, curriculum, and reporting. Fantastic, well done. And a new award was created this year, and it's the Students Association Board of Directors Award. This inaugural award was received by Sarah Crawford, our Sexual Violence Prevention and Harm Reduction Coordinator. So congratulations to all our recipient winners. And again, it was a fantastic evening if you were able to tune in. All right. So our next segment, as I mentioned in our brief introduction, is I'm going to cover the Board of Governors agenda and what we covered. So I have a bit of a quick slide there, if we can flash that up. And let's see. Yeah, if we go to the next slide. There we go. Okay. So in a nutshell, those are the items that we covered during the Board of Governors meeting on Monday. We always start our meetings with, because this is all about the students. Everything we do is about the students. So celebrating student success is a 10-minute presentation by a group that is selected through the academic area that we want to showcase to our board. And this was a group of project management students, and they presented a topic called Complete AI. And yes, it's spelled correctly here. This is the name of their project. It's not that we misspelled the word complete. And this was a terrific artificial intelligence project that measures, it can measure in real time the progress of construction of a project or evolution of a project against its plan and determine, how far the project is along. So a great tool. It's got great potential for the future, and students did very well, and they got a Changemaker Award from our board chair as a result. We then went into reports, as we always do, from our board chair and as well as our 3 committee chairs from academic and student affairs, audit and risk management, as well as governance. And we provided an update on the exploration of a public college-private partnership, or PCPP, and Ernest Mulvey and Charlene Miller provided that update. Dwayne McNair provided an update on a 5-year capital investment plan to cover, the progress that we're making on approved projects, and those projects include the ARC, or the Athletic and Recreation Center, which is phenomenally advancing right now. If you haven't been on campus in a while, there's a camera on top of I think one of the buildings, and I'm not sure if it's public or not, but there's possibilities to see the progress on that facility. It's moving very, very well, and we'll be able to open on time. The next project is our SIS renewal, which we just spoke about. And a lesser well-known project is a pedestrian bridge to a bus rapid transit. And I know it's a mouthful, but basically, when the LRT come to ACE, there's going to be a facility or building beside ACE on the south end where the parking lot is, and it's going to link to ACE. And we're contributing to the building of that pedestrian bridge to link our campus to the LRT and the bus node. So another project that's underway. And there are a number of projects that are at the planning and advocacy stage, and Dwayne went through that. Then Ron provided an update on transforming indigenization initiatives, covered a lot of ground with our board on initiatives that either are more internal to the college and some that are really across Canada. And for those of you who may have seen it on CTV News yesterday, Ron and Jeff Turner were interviewed to give an update on a project that they're doing that is helping Indigenous youth get employment during these challenging COVID times. So it was a great exposure for the good work that Ron and his team are doing. And then we did a second quarter review of our financials, and Grant did that. And we're happy to note that we're able to maintain our current level of deficit that we projected at Q1 is still what we've maintained for Q2. It took some effort, but we're able to hold the line, if you wish, on the level of our deficit and not allow it to grow further. And for information, we didn't actually present this, but we also gave to the board our update on our second quarter business plan performance. And this is work that Laura does on behalf of all of us as the executive sponsor for that piece. And that's it in a nutshell for what we covered at the board on Monday night. So we come to the part of our town hall where we are going to entertain your questions in our live Q&A. So again, to reiterate our process, I'll go over it once more. So to ask a question at the town hall, we ask that you raise your hand using the raise hand feature. And once we see your hand up, we will go to the person. We'll ask you to unmute. You will need to unmute yourself so that you can ask your question and chat with the panel members. Or you can use the Q&A chat box that's found in the menu at the bottom of your Zoom application here. You can type in your question and I will read it out and point the question to the appropriate subject matter expert. And as I said, if we don't have time to get through all the questions, we'll remind you towards the end that to type in your question in the Q&A, and we'll collect those and answer those and post them on my AC within a short period of time. Okay, so we'll think everybody's ready to go. All right, so I'll go to our first question, and first question is from Annette Boozy. Go ahead, Annette.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my question is for you, President Brule.
Okay.
Over the last many months, we've received many messages from you and from members of the college executive leadership team showing gratitude for all of the hard work and the long hours that we're all putting in to work our way through this crisis, the crisis that we're in right now. But what we haven't seen enough of, quite frankly, are real tangible actions that back up those statements of gratitude. So, for example, we're seeing faculty workloads that are pushed right to the maximum at a time where the college itself is acknowledging that that things are harder now, and that working online is harder, and that working online is exhausting. A couple of weeks ago, there was a chorus of college managers on social media lamenting about Zoom fatigue and about being just fried. So my question to you is, what will our college do to back up these statements of gratitude and meaningfully acknowledge all of the work that we're doing to keep this college afloat during this time? And I'm going to respectfully challenge you to answer that question without using terms like budget or business plan or financial projections, and to really focus on the human aspect of your leadership.
Thank you. Great question. And I will not use the word budget or the words the business plan. No, it's important to note and recognize the work that everyone is doing during the pandemic, whether you're working from home, whether you're working from the college. Everyone is definitely working really hard to provide a meaningful experience for our learners or our fellow employees. You know, not everything that we do is going directly to the learners. Some of the work that we do is for one another. And people are putting many hours. we talked about Zoom fatigue. Yes, that's real. We're spending a lot of time sitting in front of a computer. What I ask people to do is to also manage their time in a way that allows them to disconnect from the computer and take breaks, go for walks, whether you can leave your surrounding and so that you're not sitting for extended periods of time. So there's that physicality of the fatigue, which is tied to being in front of a machine, sitting down for long periods of time. You need to break that up. And I know that, it's limited by the schedule that you're given if you're faculty. And you have a couple of back-to-back, lectures. I could see that, after that, you really need to get up and walk and do something. In terms of the efforts that are behind the scene to make this all work and that recognition, we provided adaptation time on faculty SWIFTs so that those courses that were taught in class could be adapted for the delivery that we're experiencing right now through these types of collaborative tools. Is it enough? That's a good question. We certainly had a formula that we put in place to arrive at something that we felt was an appropriate recognition of that work. And I think as our Vice President Academic said in prior sessions, if there's a need to revisit this with individuals who feel that how they were able to adapt their courses was insufficient, that they come forward and make their requests for further time needed in order to see to that adaptation. But again, this would be on a case by case because some people have done their adaptations and it's working quite well for them. So I think that's where we're at in terms of that recognition. We're also asking people to see to their own health, especially their own wellness, their own mental health. And we are providing tools through our human resources department to assist people who may be challenged in ways that are not necessarily perceptible to us. It could be because of what's happening on the home front. If you're working from home and you have a family dynamic that is creating challenges for you, seek assistance. We have resources. We're here to support you, and we want to make sure we provide you that help, and in whatever means that that turns out to be through our HR. That's all I'll say at this time. Annette, feel free to let me know if you want more on any particular area here. But that's the what we're able to provide as recognition. Everybody is working hard. I know it's a challenging time. These are uncertain time. It creates anxiety. It creates stress. I don't dispute that. That's the elephant in the room in many ways, right? The uncertainty creates anxiety. We have some relief in sight with the vaccines that are being announced, but this will take time. We will continue to be in this mode for some time to come, and we'll need to really galvanize ourselves and redouble our efforts, certainly when we come back in the new year, because just because the vaccine has been announced doesn't mean it's going to be immediate and we're all going to be able to return to normal very soon. It's going to take a lot of time. So more work, more challenges ahead, for sure. But we're here to support our learners. We're here to support our employees. If there's something that is needed from our employees, let it be known to your supervisor, to your unit, your division, so that we can assist you. Okay, what I'd like to do is go to one of our Q&A questions that has been put by, it doesn't say who, but anyway, I'll read it. I know that Algonquin was waiting on direction from the CRA in regard to the T2200 for Algonquin College employees working from home. Has any direction been received, and can we expect to receive these for our 2020 taxes? Thank you. We'll turn this over to Dwayne.
Okay, thanks, Claude. So just to provide clarity for those that may not know, a T2200 is a CRA tax form. It's a declarations of conditions of employment form that an employer provides if an employee is required to pay their own expenses while carrying on their duties of employment from home. So we have been discussing this topic at the ASET table, and payroll and human resources are actively working on preparing for the decision that we're awaiting, so that we have all the systems in place. And once we receive the decision from the Canada Revenue Agency and from the College's Employer Council, then we will be in a position that we can issue them in time for the tax preparation deadlines in the winter. The delay has been noted, and the College Employer Council, they're looking to CRA, and we just need the College Employer Council to give that direction to all 24 Ontario colleges so that we can all treat this in a uniform manner. So we're anticipating we will know in January at the latest, and I realize you're getting into tax season there, but just to reassure everyone, in the background, HR and payroll are putting the processes in place to be prepared for that decision.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. We'll go to a live question now, and Leslie Wyman has her hand up. Leslie, over to you.
Oh, hi there. My question is not COVID related, surprisingly, but it's more about Workday and access for other than full-time faculty by the term and meeting deadlines. So the challenge that presents itself is, if you don't have a contract in the fall, but you have a contract in the winter, you have no access to your email account, you have no access to the comm system, you have basically you're non-existent until January. So if there are deadlines set for course outlines for those people to teach, or order resources, and they don't have access to anything, how can this be meeting the collective agreements requirement for academic freedom for those people? So you're asked to teach a course, sorry, you don't get to write the outline. You're asked to teach a course, sorry, you don't get to choose the resource. It just seems a little peculiar to me that people who have contracts for the winter term do not get access. And my understanding, it's somehow rolled into the new Workday system that this happens, but I could be wrong on that, but those are the messages that I have received. So I have serious concerns about, for example, coordinators being asked, this is across the college and other campuses as well, to submit the outline under their name, and they have nothing to do with the course. So this is not okay, in my opinion. So I'd like to have feedback if this is going to be reviewed. Why do these people not have access to the college system?
Okay, thank you, Leslie. I will turn this over to, I know it's a Workday question, but I'll turn it over to Chris first, and maybe Diane second.
Sure, there's a number of things to unpack with that question. Thank you, Leslie. It is not truly a Workday issue. This is a security issue, an access to college systems challenge. And under our current way of hiring other than full-time faculty, it's a term-by-term contract. And under the strong advice from our security experts, it is not prudent in these days of much nefarious activity with regards to data and systems to give access to an individual who is not an employee of the college. This is, and again, the 30 days before is an effort to find a compromise that will give other than full-time faculty access to the system far enough advanced to be able to prepare their materials and be able to prepare for the course. In terms of the course outline, course outlines, again, one of the things that I'm working toward is to be able to have the academic plan, the schedule of courses done on an annual basis rather than a term by term basis, which will enable a number of things. But there's a surprise. Diane has taught me there's a surprising amount of work behind that to get there. So that kind of got put on pause when COVID hit. But in terms of the course outline, again, there's one outline per course. And so it is not uncommon to have an individual be the course writer for a course that they don't actually. Sorry, I was misspeaking. Let me start that part again. It is not uncommon to have an individual be a course writer and have an individual that's teaching the course not be the course writer. Or if you have 5 faculty teaching the same course, there's only going to be one course writer. And so if there is not an individual that is currently on the employee of the college, we need to have the course outline done well in advance and the course materials begin to be ordered well in advance. So if we have an individual who is not an employee of the college, they shouldn't be tasked with writing the course outline. So that's the short answer. Well, okay, it was a bit of a long answer. And I see that your note is that it's for courses that are not shared, and fair enough. But again, if we have an individual that is not an employee of the college, we cannot task them with writing a course outline. And again, it's a security issue as to why we cannot give them access before they are an employee. And so really, Dwayne, I don't know if you had any additional comments with regards to that as ITS answers up through you.
Yeah, it's, as you said, Chris, it's associated with the terms and conditions of employment. You have to be employed to be granted access to our systems. And as you said, we certainly recognize the challenges that this is presenting.
I guess the question is, and we've programmed this to be 30 days bookends on either side of a term, right? So the question is 30 days sufficient? And can we ensure that the timelines associated with that are aligned with that 30 days? Leslie, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'll respectfully disagree with Chris in saying faculty, we don't want to tax them with having to write a course outline. I would argue that most welcome the opportunity to express their thoughts and professionalism on an outline that they will teach. But yes, if we can have a review of the deadlines because they don't meet the system. So again, it's just the machine is forcing out, there's an impact that the machine runs, except it takes away other areas for people. So 30 days would probably not be sufficient. If somebody is confirmed as teaching a course in the winter, I would argue they are an employee. So it's just that, you have to put in your outline, you have to put in your resources September or mid-October, but that's not 30 days before the January term. So there's a challenge there that I think is very concerning. So maybe a review of the dates would be appreciated.
Okay. Thank you very much, Leslie. Okay, I'll go to a question that's from our Q&A. It goes as follows. We have seen a tremendous increase of workload, bracket, new tasks, new processes, etc., due to COVID. And as a result, the employee's mental health is at risk. Days are very overwhelming and stressful with a number of meetings to attend, emails coming in. Is the college or executive team doing anything about this? I think it's time to pay attention to mental health and do something about it. We've been working from home since March, and it's been a constant battle, and the pressure is huge. I agree. That goes to the question and the comment made by Annette in the first question. And as I mentioned, there are support that are in place through our human resources team. And I will ask Diane in a moment to comment on that as well. The other aspect to also take into consideration is to reprioritize the work. And we've been diligent to do that since the pandemic started. We have restated our business plan. We have restated a number of projects, either to put them on hold, defer them into the future. Clearly it's not business as usual. We know that. And the intent here was to be able to ensure that we have the capacity to do the work that is in front of us, the essential work that's in front of us. So by putting that lens, if you wish, that filter of essentiality, we've asked, certainly I've asked my executive team through the exercise of the recasting of the business plan and their operations review of our strategic investment priorities to dial down some of those expectations so that we can focus on just the things that are mentioned here in this questions, the additional processes that have been put in place, the working from home and the remote delivery, all of that has created additional time commitments that has to be factored in. So how do we factor this in? Well, by reprioritizing other things that don't need to be done right now, immediately. With that, I'll turn it over to Diane to expand on services and the work that we're doing to assist everyone with mental wellness.
Thanks, Claude, and thank you for this question. There is a lot in this question. And from my perspective, I couldn't agree more with the sentiment behind it. 9 months into this pandemic, and we're starting to see a glimmer of hope with all the talk about the vaccines and when we can return to a state of new normal and what does that look like. But at the same time, we've been going through this all together for the last 9 months. And yes, you're right, the burden is heavy from a mental health perspective. And we haven't taken that lightly. I mean, in April, we launched the employee toolkit on the HR website. We've been doing resilience training. Our keynote speaker at the Kaleidoscope about a month and a half ago spoke to resilience and what we can be doing to support each other, managing our workload, managing remote working, and what does that mean? And you'll see in the employee toolkit on the HR website, we have some excellent resources there about employee learning, resources to support you working from home, resources to support you like parents working from home. The EAP resources that are available. And I want to talk about that a little bit because, I've talked about that before. However, some of the comments that I've received back is that it's only available to the full-time employee group. And some of the resources are available to the full-time employee group, and that's the consultation part. However, everyone and part of our community has access to go on and to read the resources that are linked in through there. And there's some excellent resources and supports. So I really encourage you to go there. We are going to continue with this, with the events and the learning opportunities that surround this to provide as much support as we possibly can. We're entering into a time, the winter months are coming, a little bit darker months. We know that last year at this time in January, we did our staff karaoke, and we're thinking about that third week of January. And what can we be doing to boost our employee morale and employee spirits during that time? And what can we do differently for Blue Monday in this virtual setting? So we are actively planning, and please, please go to those resources. They're there for you. They are there to help support us. And as within that question as well, of course, it talks about the workload. And I strongly encourage you to listen to what Claude had started that conversation with about we are actively reprioritizing and making sure that we really focus and we are doing the essential work. And I hope that is an answer, a fulsome answer to your question. And if you have a follow-up question to that, please feel free to add another question in the Q&A. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Diane, and a great question. We cannot underestimate the toll that the pandemic is taking on everyone. And we have to rely on one another, our connections, and to develop that resiliency and access to those support tools that we all need at one time or another to either cope with an event, cope with a situation, cope with the load, and again, see to how do we reprioritize things on the fly as events unfold. And I'll just open a small bracket here regarding that, because the pandemic has thrown different situations at us. Recall not that long ago, we went from stage 1 to stage 3. Things looked pretty good, and then we had to go back into a modified stage 2. That had implications for some of our members, some of our functions within the college. And in other parts of Ontario, some of our colleagues are in more severe lockdowns, certainly around the GTA and zones that are now red. And so as the ebb and flow of the situation continues, we're going to need to continue to count on one another, to support one another, because we're not all affected the same way because of the pandemic, both professionally at work and personally at home. Because you may have a partner, a spouse who during stage 3 were able to have their business flourishing or continuing, and now perhaps under the current framework that we have do not, and that brings on additional stressors, financial and otherwise. So there's a whole picture here, and sometimes we only see the tip of it through our interactions at work. It's important that everyone be able to have that conversation with their supervisor, be able to have frank discussion and say, I need some help here, and so that we're here for one another in these challenging times. With that, I will go to a next live question from Christine Kelsey. Over to you, Christine.
Hello, everyone. For people who don't know me, I'm Christine Kelsey, the Support Staff Union President. And the question I have now is related to the other questions. I'm feeling a theme in today's Q&A. But the question I have is what I'm hearing from staff across all of our campuses, actually, when I'm speaking with them, is that they're feeling overwhelmed, and the feeling of overwhelmedness is being caused by the college actively not filling vacancies in their areas. And so whether those vacancies are temporary for mat leaves or permanent because somebody's left the college, people who were already pushed to the brink before the pandemic started are telling me that, there's people missing in their areas, and now they're being asked to do more work. One support staff person even expressed to me she was afraid to go to a meeting with her manager because she felt she was going to be asked by her manager to take on even more workload, and she's already pushed to the brink. She's already working extra hours and not being compensated for those hours, and she didn't want to be put in a position to have to tell her manager that she didn't want to say no to taking on more workload. And I'm wondering what your recommendation from the executive is how should people be managing this with their own managers when they're being asked to do more with less, and the college is putting a lot of pressure on managers to reduce their budgets and to make up budget shortfalls. And I'm feeling that lots of managers are doing that by not filling vacancies. And this is causing harm to our staff. And I'm worried that it's going to cause permanent harm. And I'm worried we're going to lose support staff who are going to go somewhere else where their expectations are more reasonable. So what I'm wondering is what is the executive team's recommendation to support staff who feel their managers are asking more than they're able to do, and what should they do about that? Because as a union recommendation, I don't recommend that they work hours for free, which I think a lot of people feel that they are put in that position. So that's my question.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Christine. And I agree with you. No one should be asked to do more without being compensated. So, we all have job descriptions. We have a job description that describe, to 100% of our time what we're supposed to be doing. It's one thing to change those duties, but the capacity remains the capacity of the individual, right? It's that 100% capacity. Work above that, qualifies as overtime, for instance, needs to be recognized. And folks should not feel the need to shy away, or they need to be able to have that conversation with their supervisors. I get it. Times are challenging financially, and people are really trying to make ends meet. But at the same time, we need to recognize what we're asking our staff to do. In terms of vacancies, the ASET table meets just about every day or every other day, and requests will come forward for exceptions to the pause in recruitment in order to see to a particular function or service to be fulfilled. Whether the person has moved temporarily to another position, creating a vacancy somewhere, or it's permanent because that person has won a competition, is now moved elsewhere in the college, and it creates that vacancy in a particular area. So people, managers come to the executive team to make their pitch, to say why they need that vacancy filled. And they also state the impact of not filling the vacancy. And so we weigh all this to make sure that we're able to say nay or yay with absolute clarity as to the essentiality of filling that vacancy at this critical juncture. Because we do, let's face it, we have asked everybody to only focus on essential work, and we want to make sure that the capacity of our people is towards that. I would like to turn it over to Diane for a minute as well, as it pertains to human resources field. So Diane.
Thanks. You answered it very similar to how I would answer it, but as a direct question that Christine put to us is, what is a recommendation that we would have for the support staff in having those conversations with their managers and being put in that situation to have that conversation with their managers? That's what I heard, Christine, you really asking. And from my perspective, I really want to go on record to say we've been asking everyone to focus on essential work. And really, when we're starting to examine all of the duties that we are doing right now, do we need to have to continue some of those? Is the nature of the work still continuing, or is that something that our people leaders actively can turn their mind to? Then we have to stop some of the services. We can't keep doing it all with less staff. And I think that's coming through. We're hearing it at the executive table. I'm hearing it, like you, Christine, I'm hearing it from our colleagues around the college. And that is something that I'm stating, is that we really need, again, getting back to that focus. Do we have to continue with doing everything for everyone? Or can we really, really be looking at what is essential to get through this time period? Are there services that we can stop doing? And I would encourage to have those conversations. your focus is you don't want your support staff to be put in those situations where they have to deny work. And I completely understand that perspective. I'm hoping that we can, with this discussion, encourage strong and real authentic conversations in the departments coming up through to your ACLT leaders, the leadership team leaders, to say, we don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to continue these functions. And it's just our reality. And let's agree that there's certain things that we have to stop. So from my perspective, Christine, that's a direct answer from my view. I hope that has provided you with at least some perspective from where I sit as to what I would respond to that question.
Thank you. And just a reminder to union members, if you struggle to have these conversations with your manager, please do reach out to the union because we can help you with that as well.
Yeah. And thank you very much, Christine, for that question, and Diane for your answer. And my comment will also go to supervisors as well. If you're struggling with determining, okay, is this the priority, is this not? Well, talk to your one up. And that goes all the way up to me and my relationship with our ministry. You know, there are things that we ask the ministry to put in abeyance during this time period, or give us more time to provide them updates and reports, simply because our mind is elsewhere. Right now, we've got, you know, bigger fish to fry, so to speak. And, you know, we've been able to receive relief on a number of things that normally they would have been hard-nosed about and say, no, this is the deadline, we need this. And maybe there's, you know, some funding that hinges on us reporting on time. And we've been successful in pushing back some of these things because guess what? They're not essential at this time. And that all cascades down, right? What are those things that I'm asking for that I can, you know, put into the future, or we say, you know, for this cycle, we're going to do something else. And that goes progressively down throughout the organization. So to the supervisors out there, if, you know, you're not sure, talk to your one up and so on, so that we have that clarity around what exactly is essential, so that we don't burn out people and people work to their capacity, not beyond, to the point where we're hearing what we're hearing here today. All right. So thank you for that, Christine. I'll go to our next question here, which goes as follows. Can we please be provided with an update on the work from home project that HR has mentioned multiple times they're working on? Can there be some insight on what options will be provided to employees when we do return to the campus, whenever that will be? Transparency on this would be appreciated, instead of always hearing that it's being worked on. Okay, all right, I'll turn that one over to Diane.
Thanks for that question and having the opportunity to shine a little bit of light on where we're at with this project. So when we originally started to think about what will our steady state look like after COVID, after the return to normal, and then what kind of a policy and framework can we have as we start returning our employees to the work site? That our original intention was to have something prepared in the fall to be ready for this coming January, because our original expectation was when we had first announced, of course, in the summer months, that we would be hopefully all returning to our new normal come the new year. So as things have progressed out, and we know that we will not be returning to our new normal, sorry, I'm getting some feedback right away, and that in fact we announced at our open house not that long ago that the fall of 2020 term will look very similar to our winter 2020 term. So with that, and with some of those extensions, what we are doing is we received directional support from the executive team on the framework earlier this week. And the framework would be, again, put in place for when we're at that steady state, not when we're in emergency remote working. So we have a longer time frame to socialize what it would look like, to ensure that we have a communications plan. There's essentially two aspects to it. One is flexible hours and flexible location. And then the other aspect is the actual telework component. And then what does those definitions, what do those words mean to Algonquin College? And what is the permanent or more permanent framework that would be put in place? So now that we have received directional support for this, our next stage is to bring it to the leadership team to begin socializing the whys behind some of the framework that we have put in place, and then cascading it out to the community so that everyone is fully aware of what the framework would look like as we then return to our new normal, hopefully at the end of fall of 2021. I had to look at my calendar there. So that's the answer to that. I hope I've provided enough information to answer that question. If not, please feel free to put a follow-up question in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diane. I'll go to the next question, and it has to do with vacation. And it goes as follows. What is the policy on vacation? We were told that we were to use all of our 2021 vacation within that year. Previous years, we were allowed to carry forward 5 days. Why the change in policy? Did you want to take that one on, Diane?
Sure. As we are, well, the change in policy really came about with our workforce pandemic mitigation strategy that we rolled out, of course, in April of this current year to really try to help with the financial liability, to start really reducing our vacation liability, ensuring that any excess vacation was used up, and then developing that pattern of ensuring people are taking the rest that they need. We have talked about it in numerous questions and answers about people being overwhelmed and fatigued. And yes, we have to take our vacation because it gives us an opportunity for that rest and renewal, even though we're not going places like what we used to. And so is there a change in the policy? Actually, it is just to continue to encourage you to use your accumulated vacation within the current year. There is provisions within the collective agreements for carryover, and we would be respecting those carryovers. We did do a shortening of that carryover to 5 days to really reduce the current liability. However, as we move forward, we will go back to the carryovers that are within the collective agreements. However, if we see slippage on that, we may have to impose, some fewer amount of carryover days. But again, we're encouraging people to please use your vacation. And I know that comes with the, okay, I'm going to take on my vacation, but then what happens to all my work that piles up? And again, that's something that we need to be working together on, because we can't ask people to take vacation and then you're continuing to either work on the side during your vacation, or there's a mountain of paperwork to come back to. So let's plan these out. And once we start really ensuring that we're planning properly and that we're bringing in, how are we going to manage all these vacations? How are we going to make sure that the work isn't overwhelming when we return? That's part of annual planning. And so let's not get behind the 8 ball again, where there's these massive amounts of vacation that we have to burn through. And then that poses more workload on others. If we can get into that annual planning of, we're going to take our vacation when we can plan it out, and this is how we're going to offset the work within the departments, it may be in a better state. But we're certainly, long answer, I know, but I think it's a comprehensive answer to your question, because it may have touched on a couple of other things that you haven't asked for.
Okay, thank you very much, Diane. We don't have any live questions, so I'm going to go through another Q&A question, and it's again tied to the T2200. Hasn't the CRA announced that employees can claim a $400 credit without a T2200. Dwayne.
Yes, thanks. So yes, there has been a statement in the recent federal economic statement that was released, and they basically said that to simplify the process for both taxpayers and businesses, the CRA will allow employees working from home in 2020 due to COVID-19 with modest expenses to claim up to $400 based on the amount of time working from home and without the need to track detailed expenses. So that's, there'll be more information I expect coming out from the government on how that will be accommodated. But we also are still awaiting our more specific direction from the College Employer Council. So I would just recommend that as an individual, you consult with your tax planning professionals on how to do this if you use a tax planning professional, or do your research and await further communication from CRA on this. And the college will continue to monitor decisions and share them as they're provided to us.
Okay, thank you very much, Dwayne. Okay, I still don't see any other blue hand up for live questions, so I'll go to another Q&A question. This one says, with the delay due to classes being reconfigured due to COVID, all employees delaying with timetable coordinators, SS specialists, academic advisor, and RO. The period to register has been shortened in half. How can we fit a month's worth of work in 2 weeks without doing overtime or additional time? Are you expecting employees to work for free? Okay, for this one here, just trying to see who might want to take this question on here. It covers a range of duties here. It talks about registration. It talks about delays in timetables. Krista, did you want to have a go at this?
Certainly, Claude. So for the question regarding the changes, not everyone may be aware, there was, we did add 2 additional weeks for course loading to support academic continuity planning for the winter semester. So mass registration, which would have typically begun on November 14th, didn't begin until November 30th. However, we also delayed the release of timetables to December 14th. So depending on which role you have, the impact would be different. The full registration period arguably would have been reduced from that 8 weeks to 6 weeks. Again, recognizing and learning from the fall where we had quite a few course loading rework that had to be done. So the development of the new timetable was done with a lot of consultation and also consideration of trying to avoid some of the rework that had a direct impact on students and to improve the quality release to students. But I would certainly say that if anyone is experiencing challenges supporting students in that registration period, to identify that to the manager, whether you're in or outside of the RO, or you can directly contact me and we'll see how we can provide support to the many areas, a cross-college effort to support students through that registration period. I don't know if anything else.
No, thank you very much, Krista. I don't know if there are other parts to this question that others would like to provide input to. Just quickly scanning through our panelists here. No, not seeing any. Okay, so thank you for that, Krista. Okay, our next question is not a question, but a statement, and it goes as follows. I just want to acknowledge that this situation is hard on all of the employee types, faculty, administrative, and support staff. We're all working as a team to ensure the college can continue educating and helping people grow and learn. This is difficult for everyone, and I truly believe that Algonquin College is a wonderful place to work. I think we need to remember that we're all in this together. Great statement. Thank you very much, whoever wrote that statement. It's absolutely true that we're all in this together. And it is a difficult period We recognize this and we support one another through our actions and through the way we remain connected as individuals and as groups with our learners, but with one another as well. So thank you for that recognition. Our next question is on as follows. On Good Morning Algonquin, there was a post regarding resisting AI, and I'm assuming here that's artificial intelligence, from the perspective of Paul Boudreau, a current Algonquin College professor. Should employees be concerned that their content, written or verbal, on tools like MS Teams will be A, analyzed, and B, used in performance review? And what is the college's approach on this topic? All right, so it's got a bit of a IT bent to it, but it's also an academic question. So not sure between Dwayne and Chris who would like to start on that. Dwayne, okay.
Sure, I'll start on this one and then turn it over to Chris. So I guess I can assure everybody we won't be using Teams for these purposes. Teams is a collaboration tool. It's maybe viewed as an extension of email. And we did just recently, actually it was just approved by ASET yesterday, I guess, our renewed IT 01 policy on information security. And it states there in one of the sections that the college will not use monitoring or examination of information for the purpose of routine monitoring of employee productivity or performance. However, it may be used in the course of investigations in the workplace. So that's right in the policy that should be posted to our website very soon if it isn't already. And but Chris, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
Well, just to reiterate what you had already said, that the college has no intention of using those posted materials, whether by AI or by a manual search, as part of a performance review. I note that in collaboration with Human Resources, there's currently a review of the process by which both full-time and other than full-time faculty can be provided feedback on their performance. But that work has not yet been fully engaged, but there is no intention to use AI or any of the posted materials in that performance review.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne and Chris. Our let's see, next question is, with the increased needs of employees for support, will the HR department be expanded? There are consistent messages from employees that responses from HR are delayed or repeated attempts are required in order to get any answer. If this is a symptom of the department being overloaded, then how will this be addressed? So it's a capacity, I guess, issue. Diane.
Thanks for that question. And, it's something that I work with my team on regularly. And like my previous answer to essentiality of work and what can we actually do and provide as a service, we are doing our best within our hours that we have with our current complement. That's something that I continue to look at to see if there's things that we have to stop doing. And I'm hesitant during these times to continue to bring forward requests to add to my complement within the human resources team. We're always looking at ways that we can provide our client service differently and better. We have fortunately filled one vacancy, the one outstanding vacancy. We have filled that. And that announcement will be coming out a little bit later on this week. But really, we're doing our best to offer our services. But thank you for that feedback. And when we're offering our supports, so like our hours of our open hours, our hours to our clients to help with onboarding, for example, or the drop-ins to answer any of the questions. We take your feedback very seriously. And if there is delays in service responses, please give us that feedback so that we know how we can redirect our attention. But like all other departments, especially service departments that we are, focusing and supporting the college in their activities, HR is one of those areas where we're pulled on for many different things. So I do appreciate that comment, and I take it seriously. And I, if we can have specifics in a, not here, but if you can send me specifics or through the client service feedback, we would be happy to receive that information to help augment the types of services that we offer. And if we do need to increase our capacity, that helps me understand the situation better. So thank you very much for that comment.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Let's have a look here at the next question. It says, agreed, Christine. Okay, so that's, I guess, a comment in support of what Christine Kelsey asked earlier on. So agreed, Christine. Then you are asked to make sure that you take time off to reduce vacation days. But coming back to a workload that is backed up is also stressful. And you can't relax when you're off because you're worried about what you will be you'll be coming back to, I guess, going back to. Yeah. So basically it's about, okay, you take vacation and then you come back and then there's this pile waiting for you. Maybe I'll start off on that, and maybe our ASET colleagues can jump in if they can supplement. We ask people to take vacation to see to their well-being. The reason we have vacation as part of our benefits is to allow people to have periodic breaks so that they can recharge, rejuvenate. And I've said it before, I didn't realize how much I needed a break until I took a day off and just put the phone away and really take the time to recharge. And it's so important. And you only realize it once you've taken the time to do this. I now program more days here and there. Like I'm taking an afternoon tomorrow afternoon, just because once in a while we need to recognize when we need a break. And you put your out of office. That should signal to people that you're not there. You're not going to respond to emails or emergencies. These are, these things will wait until you return. And I get it that, when you return, if no one else was there to pick up the slack for you, it will be there waiting for you. Again, it's a question of, okay, how do you prioritize that once it comes in? When you're away, whether it's a day, it's a week, your message should say to folks to manage their expectation that, while you're away, things will wait until you return, and you'll see to that work upon your return. No one should have an expectation that the day you're back, the pile's gone and you've attended to it. That's unrealistic. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to program that work upon your return. So, again, depending on the type of work that you do and the type of team that you're part of, supervisor will need to be able to adjust who takes on the work and who answers what while you are away, because it may be that it's a client-facing transactional type of work that cannot wait until you return. But if there's someone else that can be asked to provide that response or continue that transaction while you're away, that should help alleviate the workload upon your return. So there may be a number of ways that can allow one to address that, but I fully realize that there are things that, will be there waiting for you. It's unrealistic to expect that those things would magically disappear. And it's a question of how do you resequence that work upon your return to address the highest priorities first and then working through that. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in to help provide full fulsomeness to that answer? No, everybody's good? Okay. All right, our next question comes from Leon Manukin. Regarding AC Systems access to OTFT, that's other than full-time, in between contracts, I fail to see how an OTFT is not trusted until a contract is signed and then fully trusted once signed. I suspect there is more here, such as the tail wagging the dog, i.e. ITS/security are here to help run the college, not create roadblocks. Find a solution to the security issue instead of having OTFTs ready to work, but can't even participate in course preparation discussions with full-time teachers, etc. Very similar to the CAL issuing LOAs, that would be LOAs, letters of accommodation, and then saying it is up to the teacher to figure out what to do when the test center is closed. Okay. All right, so there's a lot in here. Who would like to talk about this one here? We already said it's not a workday issue. I know this is a rule that we put in place, but it's not a baked-in rule from the system. So, Chris, did you want to take a run at this, or do you see this as starting with Dwayne with an IT perspective?
I would still say that this starts with Dwayne and or Diane with regards to the nature of employment and access to systems.
Sure, I'd be happy to start, and then Diane, maybe you can follow on. Well, we live and work in a society of contracts. We have to have contracts in place to establish legal relationships, identify roles and responsibilities, and they're really in place to protect both parties. Now, that being said, I acknowledge the challenge that we are facing with the other than full-time faculty needing access to information and systems and processes to prepare for terms startup. Chris did write a brief in the chat about a long-term solution that he's envisioned that I think is very good, and it's going to take us some runway to get to that. So all that to say that we are actively looking at a way, how can we satisfy the legal and security requirements associated with an employment contract and provide appropriate access to systems and processes to effectively deliver and teach academic programs. So I will pause there and maybe turn it over to Diane or Chris if there's anything else to add.
From my perspective, I would say a person is an employee once they have a start date and an end date to their contract. I mean, that is their employment contract with the college. And before that, you are not an employee. You are an applicant or you are a potential employee, but until your first day, you're actually, from a terms and conditions perspective, you're not an employee. So that would be my perspective. And the fact that, the allowances have been made in recognition of an ongoing employment relationship with individuals who come back different terms to terms, that 30 plus days at the beginning of a contract and 30 days afterwards was a compromise that we worked hard with the academic area and our IT security folks to put in place, with that recognition of the fluidity of our employment contracts. But from a legal perspective, until your terms and conditions start, you're not an employee. So if we are also assigning work that is outside of that, perhaps a one-day contract to recognize the work that is required would meet the need, but without the details of knowing the specifics, it's hard for me to say this is a solution. However, you know, we've heard different responses to other things that we've been asked today. And one of the things that I heard very clearly from Claude is that we are not asking people to work for free. So there's that balance of, is there an assignment of work that's being asked? Okay, well then how do we recognize that in a form of a contract so that it takes away this question that we are struggling with about why aren't you giving access to, quote unquote, and I hate to use this word, but non-active employees that we anticipate being hired back in. So that would be my view on it.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
And just one last piece from me. I note that I realize my answer unfortunately didn't go to everybody, and it's not letting me cut and paste. So I am retyping it slowly into the chat for everybody to see what my
Sorry, Chris, you've just cut out.
I realized that I did the answer that I typed in. I unfortunately I didn't send it to everybody, so it won't let me cut and paste. So I'm busy retyping it into the chat so everybody can see what the solution might look like.
Appreciate that. All right, thank you for your joint answer between Dwayne, Diane, and Chris. All right, we'll go to our next question. Let's see, it says here, the U-Ottawa community has been divided. No, sorry, I'm skipping over one here. Okay, if we as a college are taking mental health seriously, then why is Morneau-Shepell determining what is mental health sick leave and then informing HR what does and does not qualify, leading the HR disability group requiring employees to use vacation or time in lieu instead of our paid sick leave? If we are ill because of mental health issues, how is this not sick leave? Okay, Diane?
Thanks, Claude, and thank you for this question. I don't profess to be an expert in all things related to what our wellness and abilities team work on. However, I can tell you that the college does take mental health very seriously, and that I know that we do have that process working with Morneau-Shepell to assist us in either supporting or administering these leave benefits. Sometimes when we are working through some of these cases with the abilities and wellness, or the wellness and abilities team, pardon me, there might be some circumstances where we're missing information, and that more information is needed in order for Morneau-Shepell to support a claim, etc. And so that could be reasons why things are delayed and why you would have to use different types of leave to cover that period. But really, I encourage you to reach out to our wellness and abilities team to talk about a personal situation and to discuss it with them. They also offer office hours that are available to employees that have questions like this, or our people leaders that have questions like this, to say, why isn't this situation being handled in a certain way that I thought it would be handled? Again, I'm not, I don't profess to be the expert in this, but they are the right people to talk to. And just, I hope I've answered enough of the question, but again, I encourage you to reach out to that team and they'd be able to answer it in more detail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Diane. All right, our next question comes, it doesn't have a name. The U-Ottawa community has been divided following their executive team's response to incidences of racism on campus and the use of racial slurs for quote unquote educational purposes. What lessons can we learn from this to avoid a similar situation at the college? And how will the executive team support faculty to reflect on and learn from this as part of their teaching practice? Excellent question. Before I turn it to Chris on the academic matter, what I will say is that I expect everyone to conduct themselves at the college in a way that is consistent with our college values of caring, learning, integrity, and respect. And to me, that's the bar that we've set, and we've set that bar years ago. And that anything we do in our conduct needs to be reflective of that. And that goes for those types of situation where, something is uttered, where it really is not respectful of person or persons in the audience that you're addressing, whether it's in the context of educational setting or otherwise. To me, that's the starting point for being able to engage others in a respectful way, in a way that is civil, and where you put yourself in the place of the other person that you're speaking to or about. To me, that's how it starts. And Chris, can I turn it over to you from the educational lens?
Sure. Absolutely. I have been thinking about this question for a few minutes, reading ahead. An incredible place to grow, to be challenged, to test thoughts and thinking. But with that freedom to test one's boundaries comes also a great responsibility. And the college core values of caring, learning, integrity, and respect cannot be compromised as we test boundaries and push our thinking to new levels and step out of our comfort zones. We have a growing culture of diversity, inclusion, and recognition of cultural diversity on campus. And this needs to continue to be fostered, continued to grow. I apologize. I hopefully my voice can be heard. To that end, there are a number of activities, and I don't want this to be an inclusive, exhaustive list. I know there's going to be many others, but 2 employees could participate in growing this culture of inclusion and diversity. I note the inclusion infusions series of seminars and conversations that are regularly hosted and regularly posted. An incredible opportunity to again hear things from different perspectives and to grow our understanding of diversity and inclusion. Within learning and teaching services and in partnership with our multi-college collaborative model, there's an intercultural classroom series of professional development that's offered not only for Algonquin College, but really hoping to develop a community of practice across 4 colleges in the Ontario system. So I would encourage people to recognize that they have a responsibility to our core values. We expect all employees to be adhering to our core values at all times. And when one is testing one's boundaries and one's thinking and challenging our assumptions and others' opinions, that we continue to do so in a respectful manner.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
I think that's my answer at this point. Yes, it's a difficult subject.
Claude, may I just add in, there's been some links and some comments in the chat that's available.
I was just going to mention it, but go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
To all attendees, Sarah Gahn, who is our inclusion and diversity specialist, has added in a comment for everyone. Just consider registering for the Ethical Upstander training for inclusion leaders. It is an advanced inclusion and diversity module, and it provides some wonderful supports and learning in this area. it equips people to be able to call into those doing harm in our community and from microaggressions. And it really allows a really good training and background to know how to engage and how to help bring light to what's actually happening. I had the privilege of attending the Train the Trainer session, and I can tell you it's very, very worthwhile, and it is something that will equip us all to deal with that. It can be found on the Employee Learning catalog, and the link is in the chat. Penny Dockrell has also included a link to all the Inclusion Infusion podcasts that are available to everyone. So we take this very seriously, and we try to provide a lot of supports for all of our employees.
Thank you, Diane. And yes, lots of postings on the chat there related to this. I'm so pleased to see everyone contributing to that discourse here, that dialogue. Lots of great opportunities for people to engage, to learn, to talk about this. This is, this is something that we should all participate in. And I agree that we don't want an incident or incidents to create division in the college. We're united behind our equity, diversity, and inclusion blueprint. We're all together on our college values. And I hear this every day, whether it's when I'm in the college, when I'm online with people. This is something we truly believe in. That's part of our DNA. So let's use that culture that we have for good, in this case here, to help fight incidences of intolerance and racism. So thank you for bringing that question up. Okay, our next question here is, with talks of a vaccine, will employees be forced to take the vaccine to be allowed to come back on campus? What will happen if an employee doesn't want to take the vaccine? Okay, you're ahead of me here. And I've been pondering this. I know we started to talk about this with the executive team. You may have seen or heard in the press conferences that the Premier has had with his Deputy Premier, Christine Elliott, and Minister of Health. There's lots of conversations going on about what exactly does this mean for future of our society, for population. I hate to use the word herd immunity. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Just maybe because I'm a vegetarian. I don't know. Population immunity, I prefer. But there's lots of questions we still don't know. I mean, how long is this vaccine effective for? So first of all, it's going to take 2 shots, but with the current vaccines that we have, certainly for the Pfizer, and I think the Moderna is also two dosage that are required. And it takes about a month to have immunity inside your body. And there are lots of questions we don't know. Does that continue to allow you to carry the virus and give it to others? Even though you're immune, doesn't mean you're not a vector for propagation of the virus. So I don't know if that's been answered or not. How long is it effective for? Is it like the flu shot, you need it every year? Is it shorter than that, longer than that? We don't know yet. Are there people that cannot take the vaccine because the list of ingredients would affect their health negatively? And therefore, they cannot take the vaccine, period. How will we treat this? I know that there's a host of questions that we don't have answers to at this point. You hear a bit of fear mongering going on in the media and the press about, well, everybody's going to have to carry some kind of card that says, I've had the vaccine, I'm good to go. Or if you don't, there might be some restrictions imposed on you for being able to either leave the country or join certain organizations or certain events. I think there's a lot of work that needs to go on here, so from a societal point of view and a public health point of view, before we can answer this question. I'm not trying to dodge the question here. I'm just telling you that from my perspective, I don't have the answers just yet. I don't know if, hey, we haven't heard from Colin. Maybe that's the reason to bring Colin on here. Colin, do you have something you want to contribute to this?
Well, that's a good cue. I can take that. Thanks, Claude. Yeah, I mean, I think you've nailed it well. There are many questions still that are unanswered around the vaccine, in terms of how, what the trajectory might be for how those answers will start to emerge. I think it will be similar to how we went into public policy around infection prevention and infection control. We work in a system. We have our Ministry of Health and our public health officials, and then the Ministry of Colleges and Universities and Colleges Ontario. We'll be taking much of our lead in developing our policies in tandem with public health policy as it starts to evolve. But it's very early days. I can say that we're actively monitoring those bodies for information and staying on top of as that information evolves. But as you had said, Claude, as well, that some of those questions are scientifically based, and others are public policy based. Some of them relate to human rights issues up against public policy, and as those things get sorted out, we'll be taking our lead from I expect the province in developing our policies for the college as well.
All right, thank you very much, Colin. And I always love hearing from Colin. He's a wealth of information, and it's been great to have him come to our ASET huddle, participate in our conversations around safety, around public health. So I want to be able to publicly acknowledge the great work that Colin and your team are doing. Thank you. All right, our next question is from Jordan Wong, and it's addressed to me. So, all right, here we go. Claude, you talked about going up a level to ask priority. For the next 12 months, what is your number one priority all team members should work towards? Well, it's pretty simple, Jordan, because you can't pass go unless we do this. And that's to ensure that our number one priority is and remains the health and safety of our learners and our employees. Because without that, there's not much else we can do. We get shut down, we all go home to our respective corners, and that's it. So that's the number one priority. But I will add to that, because I've said, there's more than one priorities here. If we do number one very well, then we get to do number two, which is to ensure the continuity of our academic planning and our academic delivery for our learners and their success. That's our bread and butter. That's our lifeblood. That's our mission. So, if we're able to keep everybody safe through our due diligence and following provincial regulations and public health guidance, we get to do priority number two, which is fulfilling our missions to transform hopes and dreams into lifelong success, right? And my number three priority is I like to think in three, and Ron would be pleased with that. It's a bit of indigeneity here. Is to see to the restoration of our financial health and sustainability for the institution. We're taking a significant ding this year. We're projecting a smaller deficit next year, but a deficit nonetheless. There needs to be a clear path and a road to our recovery so that we not only recover, but we thrive as an institution. And that's important. We want to be able to have the freedom to do those great things that we're known for as an institution, the leadership that we provide in our communities, in the province, in the country. And we can only do this from a position of strength. And so important for me that we return the institutions to a sustainable future. So that would be, in that order, my top three priorities. So thank you for that question, Jordan. Okay, our next question is, in these times of financial stress for the college, has the executive made a decision on foregoing bonuses this year? So these are not bonuses. They're called exceptional performance incentives, or EPI. They're tied to performance. And this is part, and I've explained this before in a prior town hall, but I'm happy to represent it. is this is tied to the compensation framework for administrators. And I have made the decision, and with the executive, to have the EPI administered this year for the year 2019-20. This is the year by the finish on the 31st of March 2020. I'm talking about 8 months back here. And based on the performance that people had leading up to 2 weeks before the end of the fiscal year when the pandemic hit, we delayed the issuance of the EPI and the evaluation of people's performance until recently in the fall. And we proceeded with executing on that. And we'll do so again for this year based on the fact that we have not yet made changes to that framework. And I'm not going to pull the rug under people's feet, so many months into an existing fiscal year and change the rules on folks. But I have asked my executive team, and in particular, Diane and her team, to review that framework and align it with more tightly with the new framework that the province has put in place regarding strategic mandate agreements. I know that that's a linkage or a coupling that the ministry is and the province are keen to establish between how we perform as an institution, as reflected by those key performance indicators on our SMA3, Strategic Mandate Agreement 3. And that should also be reflected in how we evaluate our administrators and how that they're compensated as part of that additional layer for the compensation framework. So that work is ongoing, and then we'll take the best part of this remainder of this fiscal year to complete. Okay, next question is, thanks for the opportunity to ask questions. Why are we not allowed to work out of province? Question mark, as told by HR. All right, so Diane, may I ask you to take a stab at that one?
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for that question. So, when we were thrown into this remote working, there was a variety of things that we were able to then look at and uncover. And some of that is, where are people working? And so we started to really examine that in where is the registered entity for Algonquin College. And of course, that's in the province of Ontario. And then we started looking at, okay, is our collective agreements valid outside of Ontario? And the answer is no. So then what happens to our employees who, had these contracts or decided to, okay, well, I'm in remote working, I can move to another province. So there's tax implications related to this, and there's WSIB impacts and OHIP impacts. And so certainly we've been doing a lot of pushing on making sure that we have up-to-date terms and conditions for people that have that are working out of province, that we want to continue to ensure that we have everyone's terms and conditions that are properly reflective of where they're working. We have in our formal steady state recommendation for that flexible workplace policy, we have very strong recommendations to limit the out of province at that time. Certainly what we're trying to do now during this pandemic, and this again is just kind of new information as we went to the executive team this week on this and had that conversation about, okay, what do we do during this interim phase? We're still remote working. We're wanting to make sure that we have updated everyone's terms and conditions if they are not working in Ontario. Because again, Algonquin College is registered in the province of Ontario, and that comes with how we tax people, the benefits that are offered, everything else. And so What we have agreed to, and Claude, please add to this if you would like, what we agreed to this week at the executive team is to kind of continue our status quo on this. It's certainly no for out of country. No, we are not entertaining contracts of people working out of country. Out of province will be considered on a case by case basis. But again, the collective agreements are not applicable outside of Ontario. So then it becomes anyone who isn't covered by a collective agreement. Okay, so then that's administrators and other than full-time. And so what are those circumstances? And do they have up-to-date terms and conditions? And what does that look like? And if it is administrators, are they fully understanding about their benefits and what their financial impact is out of province? And so it's a complicated issue. It was something that we didn't think we were going to be in this state for longer than 6 months. And here we are at the 9-month stage and ongoing. So it's really then to protect both that employees' flexibility and making sure that the college has its proper oversight on all these legal obligations. So that's from my perspective. Have I missed anything, Claude?
The only thing that you could add is the catchment areas of both our Ottawa campus and our Pembroke campus include, the parts of Quebec, but they're termed to be, yes, living, next door, if you wish, to where they work. But that's a special circumstance. Mm-hmm. We don't treat that as being considered out of province.
Right.
Yeah. So
I knew I was missing something. Thank you for adding that.
Not a problem. Leslie, you got your hand up just as Diane was responding. Is that in relation to this?
It is. I just want to do a follow-up question then. So if somebody finds themselves, if an employee, I will say directly faculty member as a union steward, I'm asking this question. What are they doing right now if they are working out of province? Like, are they contacting who and how are they going to document it and what's the follow-up? So we just want to make sure everyone's clear on what they need to be doing, not just that, oh, you can't work outside the province. What are the steps?
Great follow-up question. Thank you very much, Leslie. So certainly you need approval from your manager, but reach out to Human Resources. And we have individuals who will be able to walk through the process. It needs to be declared. We need to make sure that our updated terms and conditions are captured and are followed and that everyone is in the loop. I believe I can't remember if we require union sign off on the forms. My apologies for not having that level of detail on this, but we want to make sure that we have captured everyone so that one, your manager is also aware that the individual is working out of province, and that two, HR has all of the appropriate documentation on file, both to protect the employee and to protect the college. So again, reach out to Human Resources, but more importantly, making sure that your manager is aware of your location. Does that answer, Leslie?
It does, yeah. I would just request not everyone's on the town hall, and this has pretty serious implications. So can this messaging go out today to employees that this is something that needs to be taken care of?
Absolutely. We've been working very strongly with our leadership team and the people leaders on this, but we'd be happy to send out that communique as well directly to the employees so people are aware.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Super. Yeah, no, it's a great suggestion, Leslie, and thank you for that added question. Well, folks, we have more questions, but we've come to the end of our time as a town hall. We have 10 more questions that we won't have a chance to take up in this format, but as I mentioned in the introduction, we'll endeavor to provide you answers, and we'll post those on my AC next week. Great questions, great engagement, both in live and in posted questions. I want to thank you for your thoughtful, respectful, and professional questions that you've asked. Always a pleasure to really use this forum to have that communication with our employees and be genuine about how we all work together and how we respond to your concerns and your questions. We're ending off and going into holiday season. It is a time of giving, and I do want to take a moment to provide you with another feel-good story where we had December 1st as Giving Tuesday. And this community shone during that time period, during that wonderful day where, first of all, we had people in our community who put their hand up and said, I will match to amount X, any amount of money that comes in, for cause X, Y, or Z. And we had 5 specific causes that people agreed to match dollars for, and we're able to raise over $28,000 on that day. And I can't thank you enough for both the donors and those who decided to contribute either comments or encouragement. It was a wonderful day, and again, continue to be giving during this season. There are always people who are less fortunate than we are in these challenging periods. We've also had a plug from both Matthew and Kevin Holmes, and I suspect Christina as well, for our reaction showcase tomorrow, virtual showcase, of course. Lots of great projects, 71, I think, in total, from our community will be on display. It's going to be a great time, and I know we all look forward to that. And on behalf of the executive team, I want to give my thanks to the entire college community. I've got a message that's going to be coming out later, but I do want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for having worked so diligently, so hard to keep our community safe, keep our learners safe, and continue to advance our learning and our academic pursuit. I wish everyone a good respite, a good rest during this holiday, and see family and see them safely, most important. With that, I will turn it over to Ron for ending our town hall. Ron.
Well, Claude, I think that was a really strong closing on its own, but I do appreciate acknowledging that cultural protocol that when we do an opening, we do a closing, so I acknowledge that. I don't have the linguistic ability to do that in my language yet, but it is something I'm working on. So the intent of the closing is to acknowledge everybody and their work that we continue to do for the community. We acknowledge those who've come before us, our ancestors, who gave up a lot and worked really hard so that we have what we do. Acknowledge each other for the work that we continue to do day by day, and then acknowledge those who have yet to come, who have not yet been born, for who's ultimately the reason we do the work that we do. So with that, with a good mind, open heart, strong words, and a strong fire, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you all. Take care, be well, stay safe. Goodbye.